All right. So let's try and get into the shoes of a leader of a religious campus organization. Maybe you're a little older, you're not a student, but you're trying to figure out how you can best reach those students' needs. So maybe there are social needs, education, intellectual, or other spiritual or religious needs. You're not a student. It's hard to make those direct connections if you're not living amongst them. So how can you get those answers? Well, these are the sorts of questions that our research project has looked to answer. So let's begin by flashing back to the summer of 2016. This is me, a young, wide-eyed researcher, and I was hired to do a literature review of relevant findings in this space. So you'd think between the library system, online resources, books, I'd be able to find tons of resources to help out with answering these questions, right? Not quite. It turns out there is basically no relevant findings or data in this space, which meant that largely we were forging our own path forward in answering these questions. So that meant that we had a lot of power to not only decide what questions we should be asking, but also how we should be asking those questions, because there was basically no precedent. So what sort of questions were we looking at? First, we were looking at social behaviors. So what sorts of activities are associated or perhaps aren't associated with involvement in a religious campus group. Second, we were looking at religious trajectory. So this is a longitudinal study, meaning that we're looking to collect data over time, which means that we have the opportunity to ask questions like, are students becoming less religious, more religious? Do their perceptions of Mass or Catholicism change over time? There's a lot of flexibility there. We also looked at mental health. So if students are under a lot of stress or if they're in some sort of situation, where are they going for help? Are they going to people in their faith community? Are they going to campus ministers or to small group leaders, something like that? Those sorts of questions. And then my module was charity and altruism. So I was really interested in looking at how do students perceive and behave with regard to volunteering and financial giving, and how do they anticipate they'll behave in the future, and is that related at all to their involvement in their ministry? So how did we do this? So this was a survey-driven research study, and our first wave went out in fall of 2016, so a couple of months ago, and that was only first-year students. And then between the first wave and the second wave, we did some pre-testing interviews to really fine-tune and make sure that our questions were really answering the questions that we wanted to be asking. And then wave 3 and beyond will be going on in the future as we continue to collect our longitudinal data. We've also, with the data that we've had so far, with our good friend RStudio, we've put together a lot of statistical correlations. We've looked at demographic information, just basically any information that could help leaders of these organizations better help their students with whatever needs they have. We also put those findings to work. We invited some campus ministers from campuses all over the country to hear about the research we've been doing over the last year and a half, and also hear their feedback on if our questions were the right questions. Maybe different campus cultures could lend to more diverse questions that we could be addressing in future waves of the research, that sort of thing. Oh, another action shot. We also put together some online resources. So basically with the same goal in mind of distributing this information to stakeholders who could find it most useful. So that included the findings on the various modules that I went through earlier, and also the very limited relevant research that we found, or that I found over the summer, with regard to religiosity and students. And we also managed to become internet famous. We were featured in multiple campus publications, and we've just been trying to share what we've been finding with the people who would be most interested in. So in terms of future goals, we're going to continue fine-tuning our questions. We've had issues with some of our questions where I feel like they're not quite hitting the mark, so we want to make sure we're really asking what we're trying to be asking. And then we're going to be recruiting more campuses to get involved so we can get more and more diverse data. And then we're going to be distributing those findings further so that we can try and meet the needs of the students more completely. Because ultimately that's what this project is about. It's about the communities and it's about students and about how we can better meet their needs. And we hope that through this project, we can be part of answering those questions. Thank you.